I'll call the June 2020 school board meeting to order. Our first line of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Apologize for a little discombobulated. I just got done watching my grandson at his first T-ball game.
Oh,
And so that was quite an interesting event. So
first of a long line of them.
yes, lots to go. It was interesting being on the visitor or the fan side of the fence. So coached that years ago. Roll call. Looks like all of our board members are on. I see Mr. Durnall, Mr. Tucker, Mrs. Jacobs, and Mrs. Mary are all on, as well as I. So all members are present. Is there any visitor comments? Is there any visitors that have called in?
We did not have anybody to call in.
Okay. All right. Then our first item is the consent agenda. This will cover the April or the approval of the minutes for May 18th, 2020. It would include the financial treasurer's report of May 2020, as well as the claims for May. It also includes consideration of donations. There's $1,000 from German American Bank for the student ECA. There's also $359.94 from Donors Choose for flexible seat options for Mrs. Truax's classroom. On personnel, we have items D 1 through 7, not 8. 8's been removed, and number 9. And we have E 1 through 9, or I'm sorry, 1 through 6, not 7. That's been removed. We do have 8 and 9, but not 10. It's been removed. And then from 11 on to 23. So the consent agenda would be a request for a motion to approve all those items.
I move approval. This is
I'll
Angie.
second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, by roll call vote. Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the consent agenda passes 5-0. Next, we have the business manager's report. So I'll turn it over to Matt Irwin.
Almost forgot to turn my mute off there. Well, hopefully you guys can hear me all right. We'll start off as always in the
Matt, could you turn your video on?
It's not on.
No.
It's on my screen.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong Matt. Sorry.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Are we good? Okay. So we'll start off in the education fund. We've continued to stay the course in the education fund as projections have been very accurate to this point. We've been pretty pleased with how those have turned out. We've really been narrowing in on our expenses and our revenues, which has been good to see as far as feeling better and better about kind of where we head through the year and just making those adjustments as we see those trends and staying on the conservative side of things. We're feeling good about where we are heading into the coming months as we kind of wait and see what the state decides on their funding formula. They did come back this week and say that for schools that are planning to do the e-learning options, they are doing, instead of doing the 85%, they're doing the 100% ADM for those students, which is a good thing to hear as far as the funding through the state. But all in all, the education fund is looking good. It's stayed pretty consistent throughout the course of the last couple of months, which is a good thing. Debt service, we'll talk a little bit more in debt service tonight. we received notice of our Form 22, which is just it's a document that tells us about our June settlement for our tax disbursements. So we're going to be receiving a normal distribution on our June settlement. We've been talking over the past couple weeks or so. We've been talking about the bond bank. I know we passed a resolution last month that allowed us to go through with the bond bank. And after talking things through, we decided we'll go through with the bond bank but at a much lesser amount than what we were eligible for. Because we got that normal distribution, there's no need to take the full amount of eligibility that we had, but we are going to take the 1.5 million in debt service, which will sit in a separate fund to be paid back by December 31st of this year. And a big reason that we're doing that is about a month or so ago, we got notification that the federal government, who pays part of the interest on some of our older QSCAB loans from back in 2010, that they are behind on their parts of the interest that they pay on those loans and processing the 8038, which is the documents, what they're called. And because that they were behind on that, since they're kind of like everybody else in and out of the office, people aren't getting things processed as fast as what they normally do. And so since they won't be ready, if we don't receive that in time, as far as the bank doesn't receive that, then we would be responsible for that amount of interest that they normally pay. So that's part of the reason that we'll take those. And then the other part is just kind of moving into the fall and winter, everything with COVID, who knows what that's going to happen. And that money is a safeguard in cash flow as we move through the next 6 months, and just making sure that we're in a good place. It helps us sleep a little better at night, as Paul likes to say, just knowing that we have that in the need that we might need it for cash flow reasons. But it'll sit there and we'll pay that back by the end of the year. It doesn't really cost us a whole lot in interest, and it would come in benefit if we were to need it down the road. Operations wise, the operations fund's much like the education fund right now. We've really been pleased with our projections as we spend a lot of time looking through, the expenditure reports and trying to narrow in on what things have looked like from year to year, especially looking back in 2019. And so those have proved to be pretty accurate this month. And so that was a good thing that we've continued to see that. So we're putting ourselves in a good position just to make sure that we're ready to purchase the things that we need to support a safe start to the school year and have our buildings and operations ready to go. The year-end cash balance projections are a little inflated at this point. We still have a transfer that's planned to rainy day, of which you guys have passed a resolution for a few months back. And so we'll plan to do that transfer to rainy day here in the near future. And then we also have some, expected expenses to come up with the start of the school year with some of the extra cleaning precautions that we'll have to take with making sure that our buildings are ready to go. I'm looking forward a little bit into the projections on operations. You can see that we have in there the June disbursement of taxes, which should be coming in any day here. So the operation fund is looking good in that way. Also, just kind of looking into July. If you're looking at the payroll number, that looks a little inflated. That's because July is a 3-pay month. So that one's a little higher. That's the second and last month of 2020. That's a 3-pay month. So all in all, we feel good about our position of where we're at this point in the year. And so we'll just continue to, stay in tune with things that are coming down from the state. And as we prepare for this upcoming school year, we feel like we're in a good position to start off successfully. So anybody have any questions?
Does any board member have a question for Mr. Irwin?
I do not.
Hey, Dana.
Yes.
Hey, this is Brad. Hey, I just want to thank Matt. He helped explain some things to me today, and I really appreciate what he's doing and the help that Paul's given him to help put this all together. So thanks, Matt. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did notice in my discombobulation earlier that for the claims, I did not list the amounts of those claims. And so we'll go back to do that, and we'll do a separate approval for the claims. So for claims, we have gross wages of May 8th for $612,339.38. Gross wages of May 22nd with $617,334.78 for total gross wages of $1,229,674.16. For vouchers, we have a claims prepays for the month of May. We also have June 15th regular claim vouchers and Forest Hill vouchers of June 16th for a grand total of $1,346,021 for, or 21 cents for, did I say that right? $1,346.21 for a grand totals of vouchers and payroll of $2,230,020.37. Ask for a motion for approval.
I move approval.
A second.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Kerr as well. So the claims passed. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of a memorandum of understanding with Indiana University for dual credit advanced placement projects. So Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so this is an annual request we make of the board. It's an agreement we have with Indiana University for the dual credit program, AP credit. And so I would like to turn it over to Dirk Ackerman, who's going to share a little bit more on this, I believe.
Hi. So this MOU is signed each year and agreed to each year by the school board. What it does is it clarifies who the teachers will be for teaching the ACP dual credit classes at IU. We have 2 English classes, the W131, the L202. And then all of our foreign language classes at level 3 and 4 offer the dual credit classes. We did offer biology. We no longer offer biology because Paula Brooks retired. So the state has changed, the College Commission has changed the requirements for dual credit. Starting in the school year 21-22, teachers have to have their master's in the area that they're giving the dual credit in, that they're offering the dual credit classes in. So for example, they would have to have their master's in math to teach calculus, they have to have their master's in biology to teach biology, et cetera. So we're going to be having fewer dual credit classes in the future. I am happy to say, even with the retirement of Larry DeMoss, that we still have 2 English teachers, Melissa Junkin and Steve Brewer, that will be able to teach those classes. And then again, we're no longer teaching the biology. And then the foreign language teachers, I believe they're all going to be grandfathered in. I'm still working on, getting that information. But this is just a general MOU, just a memorandum of understanding of who is teaching the classes, basically. And then those stipulations that those teachers will follow the curriculum. Just a little bit about those classes and how they stand up to AP. First, only our dual credit ACP courses and our AP courses are weighted for weighted grades. Those are the only courses we feel like we have the integrity to be able to offer as weighted grades. Where you have an honors course, you're not really sure, there's not a set curriculum. So we decided a long time ago, when we have weighted grades, that only the college level classes would be weighted for the student's GPA. For example, we no longer are offering the ACP, so we now offer AP biology. The difference is that when they take an ACP dual credit course through IU, they get the credit, they get the grade, and they get the credit. It easily transfers to IU and is a little bit more complicated to transfer to other universities, even within the state. And that's kind of changed a little bit. I think that, in my opinion, the universities have gotten a little bit competitive. And so, like, you go to Northern Indiana and they might offer dual credit with another college. They don't transfer quite as easily as they used to. So with the AP courses, students take the AP course, and then they take an exam at the end of the year. And if they make a 3, 4, or 5 on their score, then they do get college credit, and they get more credit based on that score, 3, 4, or 5. We have several courses. I think we have 9 courses that we offer AP courses in. So total foreign language, we have 6, 7, because the German is 2 semesters each semester, and then the second one is just 1 semester for the full year. The L202, the W131, right now, those are all the dual credit. And then AP, we have now in social studies, we have psychology, government, econ. And in science, we have chemistry, biology, environmental science, and physics. We added physics last year. And in math, we have the AP calculus. It's also right now dual credit, but starting in 2 years, we'll probably just offer that as AP. And then Heather Niehoff, actually, we're hoping that she's going to move forward with getting her master's, in which case she would be able to offer both the the dual credit ACP calculus and the dual credit ACP finite. So it's kind of a trade-off. It sometimes seems easier for the students to get the college credit, but sometimes they don't make the grade that they have to get the college credit. Our pass rate for the AP is right around probably an average of 40 to 50%, but that's a lot to do with Kyle Winkler and the great job he does with our social studies classes. His pass rates are phenomenal in both the AP psychology, AP government, and then he'll offer that AP government for the first time, or AP econ for the first time next year. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ackerman, for that. And it is a great benefit to our students. I know my daughter, when she graduated, had almost a full year of credits before entering IU. So really appreciate all the hard work that it takes to get all that organized and planned. And so thank you very much.
The other memorandum of understanding that we'll be signing soon is the APPIP, which really drove us into the AP courses and doing well in those AP courses. And we still have that support. We're now an affiliate school for $1,250 a year, which is really a great price for our teachers to have the multiple resources that are available there.
That is awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're going to pause for just a second. We are trying to deal with the audio issue of one of the board members. So, so please give us just a second to deal with this technology issue.
Brad, can you hear us?
How do I do?
Can you hear us, Brad? No. Let me just call him.
They can't see you, but at least you can. They can hear. I can hear.
Great presentation, but I couldn't lip read, but it's all good.
Can you do that over again, Dirk?
Well, here I go. No.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Wait a minute.
I'm back.
Did you have any questions, Mr. Tucker?
I'm sure you covered it. Well, you were going, man, I was just going to ask you to explain it all, AP and everything, but I'm assuming you already did. It's all good.
Okay.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay.
Is your audio on? You can cut it off and just listen.
Anna, you're muted.
Oh, wow. That was great. So we did so well the last few months. We just had to have one of these times. So, but at least it's not stressing us out, or at least not at this point, since we've been through this enough. So what I'm asking the board for is a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Indiana University for the dual credit advanced placement project.
It's Angie. I move approval.
Deborah, I'll second.
Okay, by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Motion passed 5-0. Our next item on the agenda is consideration to the amendment to policy 167.1 regarding voting. So Dr. Sanders?
Sure. So I think we've done a really good job at RBB over the last several months of staying out in front of the contingencies that we need to put into place to be able to operate as a school corporation. And we're just anticipating maybe in July that we might be able to go back to face-to-face board meetings, but yet maybe have a board member or two who cannot physically attend the meeting. This policy will allow a board member to not only listen in to a board meeting electronically, but also to be able to cast votes. And so this is just a first reading on this policy amendment. So there'd be no action taken tonight, but that's the purpose of this proposed policy revision. Dana, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, I think you covered it really well. There may or may not be changes in the law that would allow this, but by having a first reading tonight, that will put us a month ahead in getting something approved, should that become a possibility. There is some talk about it, so this is just staying out in front yet again. Ms. Bartlett, is there anything else that you need to add?
Good idea.
No.
I like it.
I think you've both covered it very well. I mean, no promises that we'll be able to do this, but the law clearly has a weird discrepancy between what you guys are allowed to do and what a charter school is allowed to do. And we don't know what the governor's gonna say next month or in a few weeks. So we're just trying to prepare for the possibility that we might be able to keep doing some hybrid of these meetings.
Thank you for helping set the groundwork for that. So any questions from the board or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the agreement with Go Solutions. Dr. Sanders.
Yes. So in order for a school corporation to bill and receive reimbursements from Medicaid, we contract with a third-party billing and documentation company. And so Jennifer Anderson is on the Zoom meeting. She's done some work in making a change to Go Solutions to better service our corporation. So I'm going to let Jennifer say a few words about Go Solutions.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. It's great to see everybody. It's feel like it's been so long. I haven't seen everyone. So good to see your faces. I apologize. I'm at my hi Chad. I'm at my mom's house on vacation in her spare room. So I usually don't sit in my bedroom. Go Solutions is a third-party billing company for direct services for Medicaid. We directly bill for services for Medicaid from our OT, our PT, and our SLP at this time for services rendered with students. It brings in quite a lot of reimbursements, and it allows us to pay for some personnel salary and benefits. It pays for special ed equipment. It pays for conference travel, professional development supplies, just general things that aren't able to be paid for out of the education fund or the operation or the whatever it's called now, the other one. And so we had some difficulty over the last couple of years with our present company, and that contract ends on June 30th. So we had been investigating pretty heavily different companies that could help us maximize our reimbursements and also give us the reporting and the consultation on data to figure out what we're doing in order to make the most of everything that we can bill. This is pretty essential at this point in time, in that the school psychologist that we just hired for the TIMS grant has her HSPP, which allows us to also bill for any services through our social workers, through the other school psychologists for direct mental health therapies with them, as long as they're a licensed mental health provider. So this is also going to help our social emotional learning and everything that goes along with providing that support for mental health for our students as well. So after I had some OTs and PTs and the SLPs look at the software, we had a couple different consultations with the company. We felt this was going to be the best company to use, as they were really willing to do what we needed them to do and just help us in any way we possibly can. They're reputable. They've been around for several years, and they're going to provide us a level of service that just wasn't there from our previous company.
Thank you very much. I know that the billing is an extremely important and difficult and extremely rule-based system, and you have to code everything right, and it is just having somebody that has the experience in doing that and that can work and adapt to our system, how we do things, is excellent. So we appreciate that. Does any of the board have any questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the agreement with Go Solutions.
Deborah, I approve.
Do I have a second?
It's EJ, I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, so roll call vote. Mr. Durnall.
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs.
Yes.
Mrs. Mary.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker. We lose Mr. Tucker? I do not see Mr. Tucker on our screen, so we may have lost him. Mr. Kerr is a yes as well, so motion passes 4-0. And again, Mr. Tucker is left the Zoom meeting. Hopefully we'll be back soon.
I'll try to call him, maybe we can hear anyway, so.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on in the agenda. Our next item is the approval of corporation and school handbooks. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, this June seems to be the month for annual renewal of agreements and handbooks. The corporation and school handbooks are updated annually. This year, I asked our assistant principals to work on many different aspects of our corporation handbook just to make them more user-friendly, so to speak, to make sure that they're more aligned. And so just want to thank Chad Musselwhite, Andy Scholl, Jerry Pittsford, and Chandler Pogue, but especially Chad and Andy. I asked them to well, actually, I think they volunteered to take leadership on this. And so Chad's on the Zoom meeting. I'm going to let him say a few words about some of the changes.
Yeah, I don't know if I knew exactly what I was volunteering for when I volunteered. It ended up being a little bit more than I anticipated, but it was a good learning experience for me. I know Andy has done it before, being in other corporations, but myself coming from the classroom to the administration, it was a learning experience and a good one because it forced me to read through every last word of every handbook that we have. So I also don't want to leave out Mr. Wooden. He had a lot of input as far as his pre-K building and kind of how his input was included in the thought process of the corporation handbook. I will say that there were not many major changes this year as we really kind of tried to tackle the correcting anything that was incorrect at the moment. And then our plan is me and Andy are going to be the lead of a handbook committee that we hope to just kind of be a continuous year-long thing every year. Because apparently every year there's things that need changing. And again, I'm brand new to this, so I'm just going on what people have told me. But we just thought it'd be good to have input throughout the year from, administration and teachers alike. And then one of the other main things we wanted to try to do was to link things together a little bit better than they are right now currently on the digital platform, to where if you were a parent and you really wanted to find out what a question you had and you have high school kids, you're probably going to go straight to the high school handbook, but that might be a question that's a very specific high school item, or it might be something that's, general throughout the whole corporation, and so we want it to be something that they can bounce back between the school building handbooks and the corporation handbook via hyperlinks. So if they're looking up something that might deal with loading money to their student account for lunches, well, that's going to be a corporation issue, and that'll be in the corporation handbook. But even if they're looking for it in the high school handbook, they can link back to the corporation handbook and find that out throughout the whole corporation. So as far as the approvals that we're asking for at this point in time, there's not many new ones. I hope everybody had a chance to look through them. There were a few. I know in the high school we had an ECA addition that Mr. Ackerman and Mr. Bland have been looking at getting in for a few years now, and we were just able to sit down and write that in there to keep a student athlete on track for graduation throughout their whole high school career. Another one that was a corporation one was a dress code change, which according to, and I don't know if he's on here, Mr. Pogue said that himself and Mr. Sieglin mainly rewrote part of the dress code, and it was pre-approved early in the year, I guess, maybe as an addendum, and now we're just getting it in there as an official part of the actual corporation handbook. So either way, I hope we did a well enough job, and we plan on continuing to make this kind of a living document that's ever changing and not changing, ever working on, that we can then each year come back for board approval on things that need to be updated and changed, and hopefully in the grand scheme of things just make it more user friendly as a parent coming on the website and looking for information that they're trying to find. So that's what we're trying to do, and hopefully we did okay.
And I will say that the handbooks were all reviewed by Ferguson Law, and some adjustments were made with changes to code, and so I appreciate Christine for looking through all that. That took a lot of work, so I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for that, Christine. I've not actually met you, but thanks for looking over all the stuff.
Yes. Well, thanks for all of you that worked on this. It's great that you're looking at it to come together to make sure that everything is consistent, and sometimes that gets overlooked. So we really appreciate the hard work in getting that done. Any questions from board members? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the corporation and school handbooks as modified.
It's Angie. I move approval.
Deborah, I second.
Moved and seconded. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
Is Mr. Tucker made it on yet?
He is listening. Brad is listening with Jimmy, so he can maybe vote through. Can
Jimmy,
you
you're
off, Jimmy?
Jimmy, you're muted.
I'm sorry, Dana. Can you hear him? He says yes.
Have him say it again.
Oh, say it again.
Yes, Dana.
Okay. All right, Mr. Tucker is a yes as well as Mr. Kerr, so the motion passes 5-0. Thank you all very much. Our next item, we have many today, so our next item is consideration to approve the athletic trainer contract. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so our athletic program depends heavily on our partnership with Indiana University to provide Edgewood athletes with quality athletic training and proactive support for our coaches. This agreement is once again an annual renewal of our partnership. And we pay for these services out of the operations fund. And I don't know if Mr. Ackerman would like to say anything about that, or he's good.
Just that they do a great job. They provide both the athletic trainer, the regular athletic trainer, and then when we get into quite a few events, then they support us with interns as well that are there with the athletic trainers. I probably see 3 or 4 different interns throughout the year, and it's just really nice to have that type of support. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board?
None here.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the athletic trainer contract.
I move approval. Deborah.
A second, it's Brad.
Moved and seconded. Welcome back, Brad. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well.
That has items 11 to 15.
Okay, and so moving on, our next item is the resolution to approve gift card purchases with ECA funds. And so we'll ask Matt Irwin to tell us about this one.
All right. The ECA gift card resolution, this resolution really just addresses some formal guidance that's been given by the State Board of Accounts on procedural guidelines for using gift cards. And the resolution clearly outlines the intent for their use and the times that they're appropriate. So I ask your approval of this resolution.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
Well, I'm just remembering that sometimes we have a lot of those. Have they addressed those not being used and checks that are paid? In the past, we've had those that were not used. So I don't know if there's a way to address it.
I'm not sure specific on the checks. I know the gift cards. I'm not sure of procedures of unused on the gift cards. I know that those stay in our hands until those are given to such others. You know, if we give them to a volunteer or someone like that, then we have to keep a log of all of those things for the gift card all the way through giving that to someone. So I'm not sure on the checks that are uncashed.
The checks there is a process, and we go through that every year on the checks that aren't cashed. I don't know how we would be able to keep track of gift cards, but Matt, isn't this really the purpose of this is to limit and get make sure we have some control on how we use gift cards?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why. Yeah, it outlines it limits and outlines the intent and the times that it's appropriate so that they can't be just given for any reason. It even clearly states that you can't give it to a staff member for carrying out their already paid job duty. It puts in some clear procedures for their use, and so that people don't get themselves in trouble with it. The state views it as cash. Giving a gift card is like giving someone money. It's giving them cash, and so they've clearly outlined the procedures of which they want us to use to account for those things.
If I may, so those come out of the ECA account, and the history is that we did a few years ago. We were able to give gift cards, and then I think there was probably an issue with how those gift cards were given, And then the State Board of Accounts, probably about 5 years ago, said you can no longer use gift cards. You can no longer give gift cards. And just very recently, then they're now allowing us to give gift cards again, but they've tightened it up with certain restrictions to do it. So that's really the change, is that they've eliminated them and now they've come back and they're allowing it, but they're allowing it with certain restrictions so that it meets the State Board of Accounts regulations.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Mrs. Mary?
Well, sort of, but not really. My concern is just that the money not be wasted, that we make sure because it kind of came back to us the last time. It was quite a bit of money, checks that were not cashed, and we decided, well, maybe these people thought they were leaving the money. So if you're handing out gift cards, you're spending the money. We want to make sure that people understand they need to give the gift card back instead of just not use it, because the money's being spent. Do you see what my point is?
Once we purchase the gift card and we give the gift card to someone, we would never know if they spend it or not. So that's a separate issue from the check and somebody not cashing a check. So we have different people that are paid through ECA. If they are a corporation employee, they are paid through the corporation. The ECA writes a check to the corporation, and then they're paid through the corporation. So other employees are paid through ECA. And if they don't cash that check for some reason, or if it's a refund to a parent for possibly a band or choir fee or a sports fee, and if they don't cash that check, and then that's what Dr. Sanders said, then eventually it comes back and they reaccount for that money after a certain amount of time. But the gift cards themselves are like any other gift card that you would give. You would never know if somebody spent it or not. That's a gift to them.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a resolution to approve the gift card purchases with ECA funds. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, Dana. It's Brad.
Jimmy, second.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the resolution passes 5-0. Now we have consideration to amendment for board policy 6610. Again, Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, this is just a policy revision on a first reading, so there's no action necessary, but I will read the changes in red that are up for amendment. So it says gift card purchases by extracurricular units are authorized, provided the purchases comply with this policy. Gift cards may be purchased by the extracurricular units to be issued as prizes for students or attendees at extracurricular events. Instead of awards for students at the edge, nominal gifts for volunteers, student group leaders and staff, and gifts for community members in need. Any other use must be approved by the school board. Gift cards may not be provided to staff for carrying out the terms of his or her assignment. Gift cards may be purchased and issued upon a majority vote of its members, if any, and by the approval of the principal, sponsor, and treasurer of the organization, class, or activity. However, in the case of athletic funds, the approval of the purchase and the issuance must be made by the athletic director, who is regarded as the sponsor, and 2 participating students are not considered members. The principal, sponsor, and treasurer of the organization, class, or activity shall follow the same procedures and keep the same records of the purchase of gift cards as required for all other purchases, and shall also record the name of the business from which the gift card was purchased, their amounts, the fund and account numbers to be charged, date the card was issued, person gift card was issued to, and the purpose of the gift card, and proof that the gift card was received by the person it was issued to. Gift cards shall not be used to bypass the accounting system. All purchases and issuances of gift cards are subject to review by school treasurer and or the school board. Any purchase or issuance of gift cards without proper documentation may be the responsibility of that officer or employee.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Any questions from the board or comments?
Matt, I had a quick question. Did the state define the term nominal, such as a $10 limit or Are you understand with me on that?
I don't know. I think that's just any nominal gift. I think it's probably of any amount. I think anything that's of worth is what they would consider nominal.
Okay, I didn't know if we had like a limit of $15 per 10. I didn't know if that would protect us any better or not.
No, my understanding of nominal is of anything of worth there.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, that was an informational item for the first reading of the board policy change. So our next item is approval of the 2020 to 2021 textbook rentals and fees. Again, Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, during the last couple of months, the building teams, principals, secretaries, and then a few of us here at the service center, we've been working hard and closely to update our textbook rental and fees, again, like we do every year, and pass this by you guys just to make sure the rentals and fee is appropriate and it's accurate. We've really focused on making sure that we have things aligned in the right columns with respect to what the state allows when we do textbook reimbursement. To make sure that we're utilizing that to the best degree possible. And so I just really want to say thank you to all the school secretaries and the principals and for their time working on this and going through and really making sure that we have everything put together with that. They really worked diligently on that, especially the high school. That's a long list of stuff there. And so definitely appreciate their efforts.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Any of the board members have any questions regarding the textbook rental and fees?
No.
Okay, hearing none, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the 2020 to 2021 textbook rental and fees.
It's Angie. I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall.
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs.
Yes.
Mrs. Mary.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Motion passes. Our next item is resolution to set capital assets threshold to $5,000. So, Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, so this one is just to get ourselves in lockstep with the state for our capital assets threshold. So our capital assets are really, it's defined as any tangible asset of the corporation that has a useful life of that in excess of 1 year that has a cost equal to or above $5,000. And so it's something that we have to track those assets. A company called AdTech comes in and they help us do a big listing of all of our capital assets that we have. And so this policy is something that helps them go through and make sure that they are able to have something to follow based on your guys' recommendation as far as what our capital assets threshold is so that they know what to do the record keeping of. And again, this puts us in lockstep with the state as what they define as the threshold for a capital asset.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Irwin. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for the resolution to set capital assets threshold to $5,000.
I'll move approval.
I second.
Moved and seconded. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall.
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs.
Yes.
Mrs. Mary.
Yes.
And Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. The resolution passes. Now we have consideration to the amendment to board policy number 7455. So Dr. Sanders.
I think that one.
Sorry, Mr. Irwin.
Well. That is for the capital assets threshold. And so this is just the first reading only, no action is necessary. So it simply says for the capitalization threshold that fixed assets shall be defined as those tangible assets of the corporation with a useful life in excess of 1 year and an initial cost equal to or exceeding $5,000.
Okay, any questions or comments for Mr. Earl? Okay.
I don't have a question, Dana. It's Angie. I don't have a question for him, but can George mute his button? It's really hard for me to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you mute yourself?
Oh, yep, I sure can.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Jacobs. Okay, that being an informational item, our next item on the agenda is for the approval of EECC's lead instructional assistant pay scale and benefits. Dr. Sanders? Matt?
Me again.
Dr. Sanders told me which ones you were, but I thought we were past that. So I'm sorry. So
no, that's all right. Hey, this is a scale that we've worked on over the last little while here as we've looked to continue to make investments in our preschool program. And our lead IAs are a little bit different than your regular IAs, as they lead the instruction of our preschool classrooms. And they take on a lot different responsibility there than what you might traditionally see with a typical instructional aide in our classrooms. And so this pay scale has some slight adjustment to it from the previous pay scale and puts us in a really competitive place with other areas in which they pay their lead IAs, or some of them might give them a different name for what they are in that preschool classroom, just to make sure that we're in a position that we can attract really good candidates, and to make sure that we also are in a position that we can ask for a certain level of educational attainment, so that as you've heard Mr. Wooden talk about in the past about just our pursuit of continuing to move up and path to quality standards, and that we have to be at that 50% or higher threshold for those who have at least 60 clock hours towards their CDA or degree. And so this position is 32 hours a week. It's 183 days a year. And again, it would offer benefits as well, but it puts us in a competitive place with other area preschools so that we can continue to make that investment in providing a really quality and already quality, but it continue to make those improvements in our preschool program.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Any questions or comments from the board?
Dane, I just want to mention one thing, let Matt clarify, because I think he answered my question earlier today, but this CDA licensure requires 120 hours total. Correct, Matt?
I believe so, yes. And so in order to meet that path to quality standards, you have to at least be 60-hour clock hours into it. But yeah, it does require more than 60 clock hours to meet that CDA requirement.
Okay, then Mr. Wood will make sure that they're preschool to get it done.
All right. Go ahead, Brad. I talked over you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so if we hire somebody, the understanding is they're going to finish the 120-hour certification, correct?
Yes, that we want them to still continue to work towards completion of that, to continue to invest in that educational attainment so that they can provide, quality education for our preschool students. Yes.
Okay, that puts them in a different category than another instructional aide, as an example.
Different level of educational attainment, and also a different level of requirement as far as what their requirements are through the day and what they're responsible for.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Wooden is on the line too. Matt, do you have anything you need to add to that?
No, other than to say that, we do currently have a couple of people in that position who are in the process of attaining either their CDA or their early childhood education degree, but they do meet path to quality standards, and they are continuing work toward finishing that work currently.
But the goal is to hire somebody that's already got it done, Matt.
The goal is to, the goal is to have people in those positions who meet the path to quality criteria. But yes, ideally, the ultimate goal, of course, is to have people who are intentional about finishing that educational requirement. So the educational requirement for path to quality does not require a lead teacher in a classroom to have more than 68 hours of work completed toward their CDA, their child development associate's degree, or an early childhood education degree or an equivalent to one of those degrees. But certainly, yes, we have 2 people currently in position who are in the process of finishing their programs, and an ideal candidate would be someone who not only meets those pass to quality criteria but exceeds them.
I would like to say I actually have a CDA. I've had it for a few years. It's currently dormant, but because you do have to keep it active. But this makes these people professionals. They are not just babysitters or childcare workers. They are professional teaching assistants or teachers in classrooms. So we need to make sure that we take care of them as the professional that they will be.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the EECC Lead Instructional Assistant pay scale and benefits.
It's Angie. I move approval.
Deborah, I second.
Moved and seconded. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the motion passes by 0. Our next item is consideration to approve a resolution to align school board policies with conflicting COVID-19 pandemic waivers and extensions. And so Dr. Sanders.
Yes, and I would like to point out how many agenda items that Matt had tonight. Well, as you know, the state of Indiana set out a set of guidelines for reopening schools. And really one of the first items on the list for school corporations to consider was to adopt a resolution, a blanket resolution, that in the event that the state decides to make some changes, they might issue some statutory waivers or an extension, and this would be through the governor or the Indiana Department of Education. And what this resolution does is it allows us to align our policies with whatever the waiver, extension, or the decisions made by the state of Indiana. So it brings alignment. Once again, it's like the other policy amendment. We're just trying to get out in front of some of these issues that we might face, so we don't have to at the last minute get something approved at the board from the board. We'll be ready in case something that would come up that's not expected. So I'd recommend your approval of the resolution.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing that, then I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution to align school board policies with conflicting COVID-19 pandemic waivers and/or extensions.
Jimmy, I move approval.
It's Brad, I second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the resolution passes. Now we'll have the superintendent's report. Dr. Sanders.
Okay, first I'd like to start off with some update on some of our construction projects. I'm pleased to finally report to you that the track is finished. It really ties in everything else in that complex. My only wish now is that we can get back to school and get back to watching our awesome Mustangs perform in our various facilities. So we're excited that the track is done. The tennis courts they should be done Wednesday. So I went up there a couple of times last week, and it looks very nice, and I think everybody's going to be excited about the results of the tennis courts. I'm excited for the students to see the new tennis courts. So the high impact drywall at the connector is coming along very well and is expected to be finished on July 3rd. I think they're pretty much finished with the drywall and painting upstairs. They're down, when I went up there, I think it was Friday, they were coming down the stairwell and they were in the makerspace labs finishing up the drywall. So I imagine they'll start painting those pretty soon. If you've driven by the junior high lately, you can see that they've actually started with the renovation project, and we've started every other week construction progress meetings for the junior high project, and the next one is actually tomorrow morning at 8:30 at the junior high. And finally, we've had our preschool connector bids that were turned in, and George Link is on the Zoom meeting tonight, and George is going to give you an update about the bid process. Probably. Can you hear me, George?
George? You have to unmute if you're.
Thank you, Jay. Did you share the bid tabulation report? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I have not. I did not show them that recommendation yet.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get to a spot here where I can. I don't know if I'll be able to safely pull over here. Last Thursday, we received bids, opened all the bids. We've come back and looked over them all. We do not have any issues. All the bids were proper as they were submitted. It looks like the low bidder is the same low bidder that we had on the last bid. Just the price has come down a bit on it. And right now, my recommendation is that I would like to wait until we receive the bids for the HVAC project next week to make a full recommendation on the award. But it looks like, we're going to be able to take the base bid and all of the significant alternates. And depending on how the HVAC bids come in next week, we may be able to take them all.
Yeah. So George gave me his recommendation in writing, but since we were going to delay any decisions on that, I decided to wait until we made those decisions to get that out to everybody. But I wanted George to be able to explain where we are with that process.
Yeah. If you may recall, the bids from the last time around, the low bid was at 3.1 million. And this time around, depending on what we award, we're probably going to end up somewhere in the neighborhood of just a little over 2.9 to 2.98, somewhere in that neighborhood. So the rebid, saved us a little over 100,000, potentially up to almost 200,000, depending on what we award.
Okay.
Thank you. Does any of the board members have any questions or comments for Mr. Link?
What is the tentative start date on that? Do we have one?
I would anticipate that we would start sometime late in July.
And then when would they be able to use it?
The substantial completion date, which is the date that you'd be able to use it, I believe is August 1st of 2021.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, George. Appreciate you taking the time. George, if you don't know this, many times George is doing multiple board meetings. And so he left a board meeting time to get onto ours, and that's
This
probably
is actually my number 3 one tonight. So the
Yeah.
nice thing about Zoom is it does give me the opportunity to get to multiple ones in one night.
so. Thank you, George. I'll
All
move
right,
on to
now
my.
I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, I'll move on to my next
Thanks.
item. And if I had my sound crew here, I'd do a drum roll because I'm pleased to announce that RBB received our Ready Schools implementation grant for $250,000. And I just want to thank, I mean, there are a lot of people, when I think back to last August when we started on the planning of the going through the process, and really I've said in our presentation that I'm very thankful that we're going to be receiving this money. It's going a significant amount of money that's going to help us quite a bit, but yet it was the process that we went through last year that really helped us to look deep into what our needs are across the corporation. We involved so many people, many of our stakeholders, from students to parents to staff, the community, even, the board. Everybody had a lot of input in the process, but there's one person I really want to thank for the board, and I think she's on the Zoom meeting, at least she was, is Jamie Miller. Yeah, there she is. And she just provided us just with the quality leadership that we needed. And I remember back, we were getting just into the critical part when we were taking our ideas and turning them into this is what we wanted to do. And that's when COVID-19 hit. And things got even more challenging, but Jamie never missed a stride. So I have her on here. I just want to let her, if she wants to say a few words, she's welcome to. But then again, you don't have to.
We found out that we could share this information about an hour ago. So I don't really have anything to say except just thank you. I feel like you all have given us nothing but support, and I just want to say thank you for that. So we're really excited. So much more than just the grant dollars, what will come of the implementation plan. To have a year to just really intentionally create a plan for the district is a pretty unique opportunity. So a lot of really great programming and experiences, really more than anything, for our kids ahead. So we're just excited to start implementing the plan.
Thank you, Jamie. All right. Any questions about the Ready Schools? Okay. The last item on my list is really to talk about reopening schools. RBB is planning to start the 2020-2021 school year on August 5th, which is our regular time to start school. It's what we had scheduled on the calendar. And we are going to provide our students and parents with two options. One is in-school face-to-face instruction, and we're going to use the Governor Holcomb's and the Department of Education's guidelines, as well as utilizing the Indiana Department of Health, and especially the Monroe County Health Department and Penny Caudill. So that's one option, is we're going to have students physically come to school, but we're also going to give parents the option of remote instruction that will be delivered through an online format. As we go back to school, we are going to have parents who they're ready to send their kids back to school. They tried the teaching and they didn't particularly care for teaching, so they're anxious to send their kids back to school. And we're going to have some others who are going to be apprehensive about the idea. And so we want to be able to provide our parents with options that will meet their needs. Today, I sent out a letter through an email to parents outlining the actions that we're going to be taking over the next couple of months as we get ready for the start of the school year. And we give them some dates. Some of those activities include tomorrow night, we're going to have a task force who's going to help us to develop our plans. Principals and others and myself, we've already been over the last week pouring through the guidelines that the DOE sent out. But now we're going to start getting more and more input from our stakeholders. Today, I also sent out a survey to our families, and this was late this afternoon, and we already have over 320 completed surveys, and that's just probably within the last 3.5 hours or so. We're definitely appreciative of our parents who are taking the time to help us to just get a parent's perspective and what we should think about as far as reopening school. And so we'll take that information from the survey. It'll help guide us on what we're going to do in each of our schools and corporation-wide. The task force will come back together. We have a meeting tomorrow with Penny Cottle with the Department of Health, and then she's also part of our task force. And our goal is on July 6th is to have a special board meeting and present our reopening plan to the board for approval on July 6th. And then we're going to open up registration for the 2021 school year earlier this year in order to enable parents to make that choice of face-to-face instruction where their children will physically come to school or taking the online option. Now, if they take the online option, I could tell you that it'll be a semester-long commitment. So in order to be able to plan accordingly, we have to have that commitment from the parents for at least the first semester. So that's about it for my report tonight. Let me see if there's anything else on. I think I covered everything. I'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is RBBEA comments. I do not see anyone.
Yep, Doug Yules is not here tonight.
Okay, so we appreciate the relationship we have with RBBEA. Great association, a great working environment there, so we appreciate that. We'll turn it over now to the board members' comments, and I'll start with Mrs. Mary.
I really don't have a lot to say tonight. It was a lot of information, and the only thing I'm saying is it's looking good for getting our children back to school, and we're looking forward to it. And thank you for everyone that's been doing hard work this summer to get that going and safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Jacobs.
Hi there. I just wanted to thank everybody again for the donations that our corporation gets. We appreciate that very much. I am extremely excited about the Ready Schools grant that we were able to acquire. That's very exciting for the corporation. And I'm looking forward to sitting on the reopening committee to, get our students ready to come back to school and work. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Tucker.
I ditto what Deborah and Angela said, and I want to thank the task force in advance for all the time they're going to put into coming up with a safe re-entry for the students and for the teachers. And kind of got me excited, Dr. Sanders, when you mentioned August 5th. It's on. So I like the opportunity to have two different options for kids, and looking forward to see what the task force comes together with, so the kids can get back to somewhat of a normal teaching methods again. Again, hats off to the ROI group and Ms. Miller. And as Angela said, I'm excited about how that all materializes from this point forward. Thank you.
And Mr. Durnall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank everybody from Jerry right on down all the way through. What a wonderful group of people we have to work with. I too am looking forward to getting back to school. I miss the kids. The last 3 or 4 months have been kind of lonely without the high fives and the elbow bumps and things. So they grow on you. They really do. So anyway, again, I'm just so thankful we've got such a wonderful school, and so thankful we were able to come through this pandemic the way we did. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to take just a quick second to thank Katz and Emily Cox from the HT of being a part of this Zoom and being able to make sure that the public has access to our board meetings. I really appreciate them in doing that. And I think I want to spend most of my time thanking Jamie Miller in particular for her work on the ROI, her work on STEAM when we got that going. It said for a really good program to get started, to get on track, to make an impact, you have to have a catalyst, and Jamie Miller has been the catalyst for this ROI, full of energy, full of knowledge, full of dedication to the schools, and the hours and hours and hours that she has put in to this is just extraordinary. There are many people involved, so I don't want to say that, but Jamie Miller has an integral part of that really made it be able to happen. So we really appreciate her. We appreciate this grant. I mean, that's bringing a lot of money into the school to develop programs that are going to benefit all of our students and the community and our workforce. So we really appreciate your hard work. I just, as far as reopening schools, I just ask for patience. There's a lot of questions are out there. What are we going to do? Well, we've got a great task force that's been appointed that will be working on that, and they're getting input from all the stakeholders. And so we'll be getting you information as quick as we can. And I just want to thank everyone for their patience tonight and for all their input. I think we did a lot of great things tonight, and I really appreciate all of you. So with that, at some point, the board will need to sign the documents that they need to, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful evening.